Thank you for joining us. You're watching the Sunday sermon for Christ Church of Flagstaff on December 19th, 2021. And before we jump into the message, we have a couple things that we want to make you aware of. You may be asking the question, what's next for you? Next is an opportunity that we have for you that it's simply there to help you discover resources to help guide you and your family towards health. We have an upcoming opportunity for Next on January 9th at 1 p.m. in the multipurpose room just across the parking lot. If you haven't already downloaded our CCOF app, we'd love to encourage you to do that. There are tons of resources, tons of opportunities, tons of information in this app for you to figure out steps, to figure out how to get connected, to figure out how to get registered, all those things. You can get registered for Next on the app. You can check in your kids through the app. You can even check out our Advent devotionals that are happening right now. You can download our app in the App Store or on Google Play. This upcoming Friday is Christmas Eve, and we would love to invite you to worship with us in person at 1:30, 3 o'clock, 4:30, or 6 o'clock. If you're not able to join us in person, that's okay because we'll have an online version available. If you're interested in that, you can check out our website for more information. Your generosity, it matters. And if you're a financial partner with us, we can't say thank you enough. Your generosity is used by God to change lives here in Flagstaff and across the world. And if you're not a financial partner and you want to be, you can check out the screen here, and there are a couple ways that show you how to take that step. The past few weeks, we've gotten the opportunity to hear from local and global partners who've been impacted by your generosity. And this week is no different, and we get to hear from our friend Brad Dorman, who works at the Department of Child Services.
Hello, Christ Church of Flagstaff. My name is Brad Dorman. I work for Arizona Department of Child Safety. Tonight, in the main auditorium, in conjunction with 928 Central and Christ Church of Flagstaff, the Department of Child Safety is hosting a Christmas party for kinship families. When the Department of Child Safety enters into a home and determines that children are unsafe when we remove those children from the home, we try very hard to find family members or a kinship placement, somebody that has a significant relationship with the child. It could be grandma, it could be grandpa, it could be an aunt or an uncle, it could be a close friend, it could be the neighbor down the road, it could be a teacher that knows the family and have a significant relationship with the child, so we can place the children with that family, with the kinship family, so that we can then address the safety concerns with mom and dad or the parents, and we can then flood them with services designed to help them learn how to better parent, make better decisions, so that the children can be returned safe. One of the challenges that these kinship placements have in doing this is providing for the children and being able to provide a home, but also clothes and toys and things. So when 928 Central reached out to the department, we identified and worked with the team to determine what would be in the best interest of these families. And so we thought it would be fun to have a Christmas party. So if Santa's here, he's giving out gifts to the children to bless these families and to help. And if it wasn't for the support and the generosity of Christ Church of Flagstaff and 928 Central, we wouldn't be able to provide this wonderful opportunity for families to bless these people who have welcomed unsafe children into their home. So we want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, your monetary support, and we just are so grateful for the church and for 928 Central. So I just want to thank you again on behalf of the state and for DCS and everyone who works here in Flagstaff. Thank you.
Welcome. So glad you're joining us here at Christ Church for this time of Advent, this season where we anticipate Christmas. And the story of impact that you just watched from our great partners that take care of children here in Northern Arizona who need the most help. That's possible because of people like you. Because as we all do what God's called us to do, and maybe you're just checking things out here for the first time, or you've been a part of our church for a long time, or you're somewhere in between. We all work together in our church to do the good that God has put in front of us. And as we get to the end of the year, would you just pray about, would you think for a little bit and ask God what he would have you do to help our ministry thrive financially? We get so many great opportunities to serve. And with your help, we're going to continue to meet all of those needs, all of those requests, not just today, but in the years, the weeks and months to come. So thank you for making that happen. And thank you for making stories like that continue to happen here at Christ Church. As we are in this series, in this season of Advent, I just want to remind you, Advent, it revolves around these 4 words. The words are hope and peace, joy, and love. And as I've said each of the last couple weeks, these aren't just words. These are experiences. These are tangible things that when you have hope, you know what it is. And that's where we started. Elizabeth said so well, so impactfully at the very beginning of this series. She said, if you look into the future and you don't see hope, then you aren't looking through the lens of Jesus. We say all kinds of things like Jesus is the reason for this season. We say that because it's true. But what it means in practical sense is that because of Jesus, because of his arrival at Christmas, the first Advent, we can see the future through the lens of hope. That's so important, so important. And then we said this. We said now more than ever, we all need peace. And true peace can only be found in following Jesus. And we spent some time, if you weren't able to be a part of that message, go and listen to it. It's here online. And this idea of we have to follow Jesus, not just celebrate his arrival with cards and gifts, like that's great. But true peace comes, lasting peace comes when we follow him. It doesn't solve all our problems or take away all the issues of the world or our families or our own lives, but it lets us deal with those with peace. And we have that opportunity. It's really up to us. And then last week I said this, I said, joy comes from a profound decision to believe that Jesus loves you and that he has overcome all you are facing, whatever it might be. And joy is, it's this idea that you and I can experience God's best. We can deal with the things of this world no matter what they are. But we have to believe, we have to choose to accept that he loves us and that he's happy to see us. So that's where we've been, and I am just so glad you're joining us. And I would love for you to make sure you like this, you share it as we're here online together, that you make some comments, or if you have questions, you have things we can pray with you, or for you, or for somebody you know, please put those in the comments, or if you're here live, put it in the chat. We have people that are here ready to respond to those. But we are just so grateful to be able to continue talking about Advent. And today we're going to finish this series talking about the 4th word, the 4th experience of Advent, and that's love. And to get us all on the same page, we've used again a video from our friends at thebibleproject.com, and it's a resource I can't recommend enough, especially if you have lots of questions about not just Advent, but things of Scripture, the story of Jesus. There's so much there, and it's in a format that just works for me. Maybe it works for you. But let's look at this word love and how it's used in our New Testament and the story of who Jesus is as we anticipate Christmas.
So if you've heard of Jesus, you probably know about one of his famous teachings called the Golden Rule. Do to others what you would want them to do to you. And this, actually, is a restatement of something else that Jesus said, that the meaning of life is to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's really beautiful, but what does he mean exactly by the word love? It's an unclear word in English, because you can love your mom and you can love pizza. And if the word love means the same thing in both of those cases, your mom's gonna feel real bad. So what did Jesus mean in his language? Well, first of all, this love your neighbor phrase is a quotation from the Hebrew scriptures, where the word for love is ahava. However, the language Jesus spoke and taught in from day to day, it was a cousin language of Hebrew, that is Aramaic, in which the word for love is rachma. But then, as Jesus' followers spread his teachings around the world, they translated them into Greek, using the word agape. But here's what's fascinating. The earliest followers of Jesus, who wrote the books of the New Testament in Greek, they didn't learn the meaning of agape by looking it up in ancient dictionaries. Rather, they looked to the teachings of Jesus and the story of his life to redefine their very concept of love. So, one time, Jesus was asked about the most important command in the Jewish scriptures. And he first quoted from the ancient prayer in the Torah called the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart. So, love for God is the most important thing. But then Jesus quickly followed up by saying another command from the Torah was also the most important, to love your neighbor as yourself. So, which is the most important, loving God or loving your neighbor? Jesus' answer is yes. To ask the question means you don't get his point. For Jesus, they are two sides of the same coin. Your love for God will be expressed by your love for people, and vice versa, they're inseparable. And so this makes it clear that for Jesus, agape love is not primarily a feeling for someone else that happens to you, like our phrase, I fell in love. For Jesus, love is action. It's a choice that you make to seek the well-being of people other than yourself. Jesus also went on to teach that genuine love for God and others means seeking people's well-being without expecting anything in return, especially from people who are in difficult situations who can't repay you even if they wanted to. According to Jesus, this kind of generous love reflects the very heartbeat of God. And he took this even further. Jesus said that the ultimate standard of authentic love is how well you treat the person that you can't stand. Or in his words, you shall love your enemy and do good to them, expecting nothing in return. For Jesus, this kind of enemy-embracing love imitates the very character of God himself. Now, we wouldn't be talking about Jesus still today if he had only said things like love your enemy. This is how he actually lived. Jesus was constantly helping and serving the people around him in very practical and tangible ways. And he consistently moved towards poor and hurting people who couldn't benefit him in return. He showed love for the forgotten ones, the people who usually fall through the cracks. And when Jesus eventually marched into Jerusalem, he made himself an enemy of the leaders of his people by accusing them of hypocrisy and corruption. But then instead of attacking his enemies to overthrow them, he allowed them to kill him. Jesus died for the selfishness and corruption of his enemies because he loved them. After Easter morning, Jesus and then his followers claimed that it was the power of God's love for the world that was revealed in Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. As the Apostle Paul put it, God demonstrated his own agape for us in this: while we were still sinners, the Messiah died for us. Or in the words of the Apostle John, God's own agape was revealed when he sent his one and only Son into the world so that through him we could have life. And for John, then, this leads naturally to the conclusion, beloved ones, if that's how God has loved us, then we ought to show love for one another. So, Christian faith involves trusting that at the center of the universe is a being overflowing with love for his world, which means that the purpose of human existence is to receive this love that has come to us in Jesus and then to give it back out to others, creating an ecosystem of others-focused, self-giving love. And that's the New Testament meaning of agape love.
I hope that helps you. And if it spurs questions or thoughts, please put them in the comments. Send us a message. We'd love to talk more. But love is action-oriented. God demonstrated his love. He calls us, the teachings, the example of Jesus, is that love requires action. And sometimes we settle for sentimental love or just feelings, of love. I have a question. What's an action? Since love is action-oriented, what's an action someone has taken to show you love recently? It could be something really grand. It could be something really simple. I'd love for you to write the answer. What has someone done to show you love? What action have they taken to show you love? Put it in the comments. Send us a direct message if you don't want to share it publicly. I just want to hear what's happening in your life. Here's what's happened to me. Here's what I'll tell you. Just a few days ago, I came home from work, and there were these this like wrapped giant cellophane Christmas cake shaped thing on my counter. And I'm like, Christy, what is this? She goes, our neighbor down the street, Marcia, she made cinnamon rolls for you. And I was so excited. She made a bunch of cinnamon rolls in the shape of a Christmas tree, and it was all wrapped in cellophane, and they were delicious. She also made tamales. So my neighbor Marcia brought, and thank you, Marcia, if you're watching this, made tamales and cinnamon rolls and brought them over to our house. Friends, I don't know outside of Jesus if anyone's ever showed love so well as my neighbor Marcia. I'm just kidding, but that was an awesome thing. And I can't think of a better way to show someone love right now than make them some tamales, homemade tamales, stuff them with lots of meat. It was amazing. We enjoyed them. Brought the cinnamon rolls here to work, and everybody got to have some of them. They're delicious. What's someone done? What's a simple act? A friend, a neighbor, maybe you got a text that was super encouraging. Just tell us. I'd love to hear that. Jesus told us as his followers, he said this in the 13th chapter of John, a new command I give you, love one another. Give Chris tamales. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what it says. He says, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. That's a significant statement. As Jesus has loved you, as Jesus has loved me. That's the standard. And he tells us what will happen. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, my followers. That's what we do here at Christ Church. We help one another follow Jesus. We help each other be his disciples. If you love one another. This is so important, and why love is a part of Advent. And I can't overstate the importance of this. It's not just that you and I, as we spent a lot of time talking about last week, understand that Jesus loves us. He's happy to see us, and we choose that love. And that's how we experience true joy. But now we turn our attention to how do you and I, in a way that's action-oriented, show that same love to each other? Because that's what Jesus has commanded us to do. This is some of the very last things he said before his death. Right after he demonstrated an act of love by washing his disciples' feet. As the leader, he did the grossest job available. He calls you and I to love. And it's the following of this commandment, this new commandment, literally the replacement of all the other commandments. The hundreds of other commandments were replaced with one, love one another. And it was this new commandment that allowed the followers of Jesus in a very short period of time to go from being killed in the Roman Colosseum as entertainment to Rome being a city filled with churches and crosses. And today, if you go to the remains of that same Colosseum, where our spiritual forefathers died, where they shed their blood to try to just follow this commandment. There are crosses hanging in that same building, that same Colosseum. It's a city, that place of death is surrounded by churches because a group of people said, we're going to do this. We're going to show love, and then everyone will know we are following Jesus. And it changed the world, friends. Once you believe Jesus is who he said he is, and that he did what he said he would do, which is to die and pay the price for your sin and resurrect, this is really the only thing you need to know about Christianity or following Jesus, is John 13, 34 and 35. And I know I might be accused of oversimplifying the thing, but I believe this so much. This is what following Jesus is all about. It's all we need to know, and more importantly, it's the thing we are to do. Because love is to work toward the well-being of others without expecting anything in return. And when Jesus told us to love one another as he loved us, when we live that out, when we do that, not just agree that we should, but we actually do, he uses that to show the world himself, to draw some to him. It's what he's called us to do. Could you do something simple? Think about what is it you could do simple? What's something you could do right now that would be a work towards someone else's well-being? Sometimes when we talk about this topic, I find myself thinking of like, what's the really grand, complicated thing? The really expensive thing, the really time-consuming, but maybe you could just send someone a text message that's encouraging and just give them a compliment or remind them of some awesome time in their life or some thing they did that had an impact and just encourage them in a genuine way. Maybe you could take some cinnamon rolls to your neighbor. And if you live in University Heights, I recommend that approach. I'm just kidding. I don't need any more. Had them. They were awesome. Maybe your work toward another's well-being is going to be much more profound. But what if we could start with some simple things, some simple acts of love? In my marriage, Christy and I, one of the things we've worked really hard on, we've been married 25 years now. And one of the things we've worked really hard on and continue to work on, it's like an ongoing work for us, is expressing each other's love in the language that it can be received. Here's the thing. Gary Chapman many years ago wrote a well-known book called The 5 Love Languages. And I love that description of love being in a language, because I've tried to have conversations with people in Spanish or in Arabic, in languages that I don't speak, with people who don't speak English, which is the only language I've figured out how to speak so far. And it's really hard to communicate with someone, especially anything of significance, and when we don't have the same language. And what's one of the things I would have done different if I were making people and attracting them in like relationships like marriage or family, is I would have people all speak the same love language. But that's not how God decided to do it. And Christy and I, we have different ways that we express and receive love. And Chapman in his work says there are 5. And here's the thing. If you go to our CCOF app, the only place you can find what I'm going to share you is if you Google it, actually. So not the only place. But if the place where we're putting it is on our app in the sermon notes. And then there's a link to the 5lovelanguages.com, or you can just go there straight away. But there are 5 ways that you feel or express love. And for Christy and I, we don't have the same ones. It's things like words of affirmation. Some of us need to hear out loud affirmation. Some of us don't. And this is my number one, words of affirmation. And Christy's she's not very communicative naturally in that way. And so we have to work at that. We have to speak each other's language, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, receiving gifts. Those are the 5. And each of us, Christy and I each have 2 that really rise above the others, but they're not the same 2. So it takes a lot of work for me to express love in a way she can hear it. Because for me, I want to, it's words of affirmation and acts of service are mine, top 2. And hers are physical touch and quality time. So while I'm doing the dishes and picking up the house thinking I'm showing her love, like I'm doing this because I care about her and I care about our family and I want it to be done and it's important to me. And I think, oh, she'll think this is great. And she just wants me to sit on the couch and hold her hand and have a conversation or watch some on Netflix. And we have to speak each other's language, and it's hard work. But love says that I'm going to do the thing the other person needs done, not what I want done. And so this list, like I said, you can find it online. You can find it on our app. I hope you go there. Because like my marriage, maybe you and your roommate, you don't communicate your feelings for each other the same way. Maybe it's your friends and your circle of friends. You're like, I really care for this person, but they don't seem to hear me. People you work with, maybe in your classroom, do your students know you love them? The ones who probably speak the same love language as you do, but maybe not the others who speak a different language. Love is to work toward the well-being of others without expecting anything in return. That love is so important, and that kind of love has and continues to change families and classrooms and workplaces and cities and eventually the world. For some of us, we just have to be honest that our good deeds, our works towards others, they come with strings attached. And that's not bad. That doesn't make you an evil person. That's just me settling when I do that, when I show someone love or I do kind things or right things to get something back, to get notoriety or love returned or a tick for tat situation. That's just me settling for a lesser version of love than the one Jesus calls you to. The version of love that Jesus calls me to. And friend, he doesn't just call you to this or me to this. He equips us for this. He gives us everything we need to experience and show this sort of love. Look at something else Jesus said. He actually goes a little deeper on this topic. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy." Now for a second, that phrase actually isn't in the Old Testament. So when he says you've heard it said, he's speaking about Jewish commentary on the Old Testament. Because in Leviticus 19, it says love your neighbor. The hate your enemy part was never a command from God. It was what rabbis over the centuries said because they didn't like their neighbors. And they're just people and they got sideways from what God wanted. So Jesus is like, hey, you've heard that it's okay to hate people that aren't like you. Maybe you've heard that recently. I've heard it recently. You've heard it said. Love people who agree with you and hate those who don't. There's one way you could read this. But I tell you, look what Jesus says. I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, who take away your religious freedom, who treat you poorly because of your faith in Jesus. That's what persecution is. That you may be children of your Father in heaven. Friends, this is deep. Some people in my life, maybe this isn't true for you. Some people in my life are just much easier to love than others. And I'm sure I'm the only one who has that experience because, I'm just not as mature as I need to be. I'm sure for you, everyone is easy to love, right? This verse really doesn't apply to us, does it? Yeah, it applies to all of us. Because we know how divided our world is today. It's dividing our families. We're divided because we've made politics a religion. We can't agree on what's true. We can't agree if a news article or even a picture or a video, is that a real one or is that a fake one? Is this doctor right or that doctor right? Who can we trust? Everyone who doesn't agree with me is out to get me. Right? Like these are sentiments that are they're everywhere. We're all trying to wade through this moment in time. And it's why more and more of us are finding ourselves susceptible to things like conspiracy theories and hatred for others because we're lacking Christ-powered, I would say Christmas-inspired love. Maybe more than ever before. For sure more than ever before in our lifetimes. We need to get back to what Jesus said about loving people who are different than us. I love the movie Elf. We haven't seen it. I haven't watched it yet this season, but I'm going to, I promise, between now and Christmas. And one of my favorite parts, and it's a little cheesy, right? At times, but it's so great. I actually just had dinner with a friend. He was talking about how much he loved syrup, and all I could think about was Elf, and he didn't even like it was funny. All right, in the movie Elf, Santa's sleigh won't take off and deliver the presents because there's such a lack of Christmas spirit. And we know that's not actually how things work, I'll say. But I believe some of our families, some of our relationships, maybe your family, your relationships, or some of us are struggling. We're struggling in a similar way. We can't take off. We're a grounded sleigh because we've lost focus on Christ-powered love. I can't naturally love my enemies. I need Jesus to help me do that. Because Jesus said, it's him who causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, to send rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Jesus tells us to love our enemies because he loves them. He loves them enough to let them live on his planet where it rains and it snows and the sun shines on everyone the same. That's his choice. Who am I to argue with that? I don't want to find myself in that spot. In this verse, I think we could even put our own 2021 alternative reading to this. It's Jesus who causes his sun to rise on the progressive and the conservative. He sends snow, and hopefully snow on Christmas, Jesus, if you're listening. He sends snow on the anti-vaxxers and those of us who got our boosters already. Right? Like we keep thinking people like us are good and people not like us are evil. That is not how Jesus is looking at us in this moment. He's telling us to love one another, to love our enemies, to love those who persecute us. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Or not even the tax collectors doing that. I did get a letter from the IRS today. Thank you, government. If you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than any others? Friends, we're the people of faith. We're the followers of Jesus. We're Christians. And Jesus is calling us out right here. Do not pagans do that too? I don't want this harsh word to be Jesus' rebuke of me anymore. See, being loving to people who aren't like me, it's hard. And being loving to people who are easy to love, well, it's easy. And it comes with a reward. It comes with all kinds of great feelings. But it's not what Jesus came for. Because if we're honest, there's times we're hard to love for someone else. And he loves us, and he commands them to love us. So how do I show love? Let's get practical for a second. How do I show love to those around me, whether they're easy to love or they're hard to love? The first, this is the same thing I've said every week. One of the ways that you can show love is to be generous. Our church right now is indeed in a time where finances are tight. This year has had so many changes and disruptions to lots of people's lives and the families in our church life. And it's just, maybe it's time for your love to be shown financially to someone you know or to our church. That would be amazing. Maybe it's time to be generous this week. What if you just spent some time this week with someone you don't really get along with? Someone who's different than you. Maybe there's that person that's going to be at grandma's house over the weekend that you're planning to just be in the other room often, away from them. What if you just were kind? What if you just spent some time with them? You don't have to talk about politics or vaccines. You can just be kind. Be generous with your time, with your with your love. You could also show love by bringing somebody with you here, either online. You could join us on Christmas Eve. We're going to have a great celebration of Advent. It's just going to be so fun, and there'll be families here and candy canes and all the stuff, candlelight, silent night. You're going to be able to watch online. We're going to do that, but it's not going to be the same experience. So if there's any way it makes sense for you to be here, I hope you will be on December 24th. You see on the screen the times. You could bring somebody with you. And here's the last way you can share and show love. What if you started to create an ecosystem of others-focused, self-giving love? One small action at a time. What if you could just start doing small things in the family, in the apartment complex, in the dorm room, in the business, in the classroom, wherever it is you are, in the neighborhood? One action at a time. Create an ecosystem of love. God calls us to that. Think about how he might transform your home if you were to do this. How he might transform the place you work, your school, our city. Imagine Flagstaff. Imagine Munns Park, or Donny Park, or Williams, the reservation, as being ecosystems of others-focused, self-giving love. You don't have to change the whole world. Just change the part of the world you're in. And you don't have to convince people to think like you or to act like you. You just do this by showing love, doing what they need done with nothing in return. Imagine what would be different. How's that even possible? Well, what makes that possible is the thing we celebrate when we celebrate communion. And I don't know, as you've been watching online or doing church at home or wherever you are, you're out and about, we would love for you to grab some elements, crackers or juice, and celebrate communion. We're going to end this service, this time, with a song called Build My Life. And during that song, I want you to take your elements of communion, whatever you've been using at home, and I want you to take that piece of bread, that cracker, take some juice, and celebrate the Lord's Supper, proclaiming that the foundation of my small acts of love, the foundation of those small acts and how they can change your home, how they can change the reservation or Donny Park or Williams or Flagstaff, is they're on the foundation of Jesus' death. My small act of love is just on top of his life-changing, world-impacting act of love and the power of his resurrection. That's how I can even think about changing this world or my home or my neighborhood. Because Jesus has done the hard work. The lyrics of this song, you'll see them right here. There is no one like you, Jesus. There's none beside you. Open my eyes and wonder and show me who you are. For some of us, we need to recapture a picture of who Jesus is. And then these last couple lines. Fill me with your heart. Lead me in your love to those around me. Friend, this isn't easy. That's why Jesus talked about loving enemies and other people so much. He showed so many pictures and examples of it, and he died on a cross to demonstrate it, because it is hard. It doesn't come naturally. And it changes people because of him, not because of us. And what you're going to see next is our team leading us through this very song with those lyrics. And as those words come on your screen and you hear the music, Ask God to fill you with his heart so that you can help create an ecosystem of love right where you are. And as I said, also during this song, take your elements of communion and celebrate the one who this Advent loves you deeply and wants your love to change the part of the world he's put you in. God bless you.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Oh, worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I shaken.